Hey guys, how's it going? I'm with Bernie from Acoustic Vibe Music over in Tempe, Arizona, and his band is playing tonight. We're out at Cactus Jack's in Phoenix. Really cool band, and he's agreed to let me look at his guitars and sort of do a little rig rundown kind of thing and look at his pedal board and his amp. So let's check it out.
All right.
What's this first one we're looking at?
Well, this is actually the guitar that I built when I went to Roberto Venn, the guitar building school here in town.
Right.
That went back in 1993, and I've been playing this one ever since. It's my student instrument. It's a Dreadnought. It's a cedar top, ebony fingerboard, mahogany back and sides.
So Roberto Venn is like, how many of these luthier schools are around that is the quality of Roberto Venn?
I know that there's several other ones here in the country. Brian Gallup, I believe, runs one up in Michigan, and then there's several other across the nation. But Roberto Venn was one of the only ones that I knew of back in the early 90s that was kind of accredited, and they had the repair class as well, and I went through with the idea that I would become a repairman, which I did.
Right. Beautiful work. Look at these inlays. Brian, get in here real quick and look at this. Man, you built a nice guitar. Look at that nut on there.
Yeah, that's a scalloped nut.
Wow.
And then the rosette there was my design as well. I had a little bit more complicated one originally that they turned me down, and this was the one that kind of came up and that kind of tied together these kind of pie-shaped triangles and this circles into this growing.
So this is
flowering.
all your design, the bridge and,
Yep.
and the inlays. And what's the wood that you use here on the fretboard?
This is an ebony fingerboard.
Oh, nice.
This is a rosewood pickguard, rosewood bridge, rosewood and a burled maple, and mother of pearl inlay.
You didn't put your name, Bernie, right?
I have an inlay for that.
Oh, do you?
Yes, I've been waiting many years to put my time aside and get it finished.
Very nice, man.
So
I'm pretty sure you passed the class then.
I did quite well in the class. It was probably with my machining background and woodworking background, it was everything came together in nice synchronicity.
I love the style right here. Really nice, man.
Thanks. So that's my acoustic I'll be playing tonight, and I've been playing it for about 25 years now, and I love it. It's carved in my hand, made by my hand.
Really nice.
Yeah, it's always comfortable.
Okay, so now we're looking at your Gibson.
Yes, my Gibson, this is a 1978, it's a deluxe model. It's actually a burgundy red color. It's a little hard to see in some lights, but when you get it under some of the blue LED lights, it really pops. It's red. A lot of times it looks almost black. This one here I did a refret on. I changed out some of the hardware. The Gibsons are a little famous for tuning issues, so I got this fine tuning tailpiece on it.
And the bridge works with that.
And this here is what's called an Nirvana nut. And it helps, as you can see here, it's staggered and actually intonated like the guitar would be at the saddle at the bridge, because what that does is it helps with the tuning here in the first position.
That is super cool. I have never seen that. That is super cool.
Gibsons are known to have had some problems with the tuning, in particular at the nut. And what happened with this one also was that the nut at the factory was cut just a little bit out of place. So this nut actually tightens and loosens these screws, and you can move this shelf forward and backwards to fix the relationship of the nut to the first fret.
What a great design. Who designed that?
That's made by a company called Nirvana.
Okay.
Nirvana.
Nirvana.
So, yeah, and I got this one back in the mid or late 80s when I was about 18 or 19 years old. And I didn't play it for years. I was more of a Strat guy. And I brought it out, and I brought it to Rockaroki here, and I really started enjoying it.
People go through phases. They play Strats for a while, they go to Gibsons for a while.
They do, and that would be probably the best mainstay instruments that you're going to get is a Strat and a Les Paul. Covers a lot of territory.
Now what's our switch do here?
This switch was here when I got it, and it's a mini toggle which takes and turns this bridge pickup into a single coil.
Okay.
And you would expect that would be very thin and unusable, and it is a very bright and snappy tone, but I really love it. When you roll back the volume just a little bit, you get a very almost acoustic tone that really cuts through, and you can play very lightly, and you get a nice blend of the guitar in the mix without having to really hit it. So surprisingly, Jimmy Page also used that coil tap on the bridge position.
I got you.
Because he played a Telecaster for years, and that's how he got a lot of those classic tones, was on a single coil Telecaster.
Did you tell us what the pickups were?
The bridge pickup here, they're both Duncan pickups. This is the JB here at the bridge, and then the Pearly Gates.
Oh, wow.
Which is the
Billy Gibbons thing.
Yeah, that's the classic combination there for the Gibson, is the JB in the bridge and Pearly Gates at the neck. So it's been a great guitar. I've really enjoyed playing it. What's really great, if
I bet it's a lot of fun to play that, huh?
It is. What really changed it and made it a lot better here recently for me was this strap made by Neotech. And what it is it's this very cushiony material, and you can see it actually stretches.
Wow, Neotech.
It's like a Lycra almost. And what it does here when I play is, you see it has a really nice wide spread across my shoulder, which makes it all the more comfortable for the Les Paul. And then it's actually, if you can see, it actually has a little bit of rubber bandish kind of. So
super cool.
Yeah.
Neotech.
That's made playing the Les Paul for me a lot more enjoyable. I was going home at the end of the night with this kink in my shoulder. What the heck is going on? But it probably weighs 7 or 8 pounds. And in particular, the Les Pauls from the 70s are known to be heavy.
It was never chambered or anything?
Never chambered. It's pretty heavy mahogany, maple top, and then this also has the maple 3-piece neck with the modified kind of the slight volute on it.
So again, it's late 70s?
Yeah, 78.
Okay, yeah, I heard about the maple in the late 70s.
Yep. And they get a little bit of flack, but what had happened was Gibson was having problems with the necks breaking. The old angle, if I remember correctly, was a 17-degree pitch, and then on this one here they do a 12-degree. And what happens with that is, if it were to fall over, you can see that the neck
it's not just going to snap real quick.
Right. So, because a lot of things happen here on this Gibson as well, is that they've got it channeled out here for the truss rod, and what that does is it removes a lot of mass there. So that's a very weak area, if you can imagine all the tension.
So they have the volute to try to help a little bit.
Yeah. So.
And that's the pancake body, the 2 pieces.
This one is not actually. I was lucky enough not to get one that had the sandwich body. It's actually 3 or 1 whole piece, and it might actually be 1 whole piece of mahogany.
Wow.
So
beautiful.
Yeah, and then it was also refretted with jumbo frets, the Dunlop style 6100s.
All right. Well, you got one more for us to look at. Let's check that out. Okay, what do we got here?
Well, this here is a Tiesco, and from what I can tell, it's about somewhere between a 65 to 67. And they made them under several different brands. Silvertone was another one of the brands that Tiesco is manufacturing for. Now, this one was actually branded at one point a Tiesco, and unfortunately, somebody removed the badge on there, which you know,
right, a little thing that looked like about the size of a nickel.
No, it was a little bigger than that, and it was kind of a red, white, and blue color, and it didn't quite match. And I don't mind that it's gone, although I did buy a replacement one.
Did you?
Reproduction.
You haven't stuck it on there yet.
No. And the story on this one here was I had a Tiesco. It was my first guitar when I was a kid, and I bought one that was like it. When I went to the Roberto Venn school, I had tried doing some refret work on it. It didn't work out for me, and the neck was too far gone. So I came across these Tiescos on Reverb, and I just fell in love with this shape here of this one. And for what it is, the technology in the building of it at the time is pretty incredible. What they got here is an on-off switch for each pickup. Okay. Neck. Okay. Middle, bridge. And then you can run any combination of them. Okay. And then this one here. What's the red thing? Don't ever push the red one. This one has what you see here is the rhythm and a solo selection. Oh, wow. And what that does is it's tied to this tone knob. Okay. When it's in the solo selection, this acts like a normal tone knob. Okay. But when you put it into the solo selection or the rhythm selection, right, it acts as a treble cut or treble boost. So
Okay.
it has some pretty interesting features to it. And in particular,
That's a butter knife, huh?
yeah, that's pretty avant-garde there, whammy bar. But it's fashioned after like a Bigsby tremolo. You can see it's very similar to a Bigsby design. And as this rocks here, it creates the fluctuation of the tuning by rocking that little saddle piece there. What's really cool about this guitar is it's one of the higher ends. I believe it was a model number ET312 is what they called it. And it actually had an intonatable saddle, where a lot of these guitars from Japan in the mid-60s were a little bit less expensive, and they just had a pre-formed intonation point and they never played in tune. This one actually has a lot like a Fender or a Gibson, these movable saddles, and they're actually roller saddles. Which again, for the technology...
So this whole top piece actually
they roll.
It'll roll around.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
pretty nice.
I also refretted this one with a jumbo fret.
Okay. Zero nut.
The zero fret. Yeah. And then bone nut and the zero fret, surprisingly, I'm quite impressed by. I really like it. When I did the refret, you got to be careful doing the refret and leave maybe just a little bit extra height on that zero fret. But I find that it actually helps the tuning. I think that it gives a consistent tone because just like a fretted note, you're getting the string sound of the string breaking over the top of the fret.
Right.
So this one's got a little bit of a chunky neck on it. But if you can imagine that in the mid-60s there, a lot of the stuff that came out of Japan was not of high caliber.
Hardly playable.
Yes, but apparently what had happened was they realized at some point somebody had mentioned to them that their guitars were not viewed with quality in the United States, and they took that to heart. From what I understand, the Japanese take their pride in things, and I can tell you from looking at this instrument, they took their pride in it. There's a lot of things that you would never see duplicated, and in particular at the time, these, I think they're called like German curves, or German cut on it. And if you can see here, the way that it tapers out over this long peak, these are not easy things to either probably machine and or replicate.
And stainless steel pickguard?
Yes, no, actually aluminum. Aluminum. I believe what would it be, anodized or kind of sandblasted. And so the whole thing about it that I really love the most with this guitar is you think like 1966, 1967, it looks like a rocket ship.
It does.
It just looks like something that you push the controls and it's ready to blast off to the moon. So I really enjoy it. It's become
the sunglasses that the women used to wear. They would come up, the eyelashes,
So I really love this one. I play it a lot around the house. I bring it out here to Rock-a-Rokery once in a while, and
yeah, I've seen you play this a few times.
It's a great sounding guitar for grungy stuff.
What do they call the pickups in this thing?
No, these have a square pole piece.
Wow.
Pickup, and that's unique to some of the Tiescos. You don't see that very proliferating through
I've seen like gold foil kind of stuff.
They make the gold foil one that was in the Rycooter that was popular. They sell for hundreds of bucks actually. So this one, the only problem I have with it is it's got a little bit of volume disparity between the Les Paul and this one. These are single coils, the Les Pauls are humbuckers. So I got to crank up the amp a little bit and then remember to turn it down when I pick up the Les Paul again.
There you go. It's a little quieter.
Yeah. So that's that one there.
Very cool. Well, let's go over and check out the pedals and your amp.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Okay, Bernie, let's start with your amp. What do you play through?
Well, this amp here was something I came across when I worked at a store called Phoenix Guitar Company. And they were only around for a few years. They were building custom guitars, and they had this amp here. And it's a Seymour Duncan 8450. It's EL84s, and it's 50 watts. It's fashioned after an AC30, which the AC30s were EL84 tubes. So it's known as kind of a British type of tone. It's kind of a nice breakup, got a nice gain, and a little bit of a sparkle on the top. So I love it. It's got two 10-inch speakers in it, which is unique. Most of the amps that you see are usually 112 or 212s.
Right.
So with the 2.8s, you get a little bit more bass response out of it than a 112. and that was what, when I bought it, originally gave me the idea to get the amp with the 2/8 over the 112.
Seymour Duncan, man.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a cult classic amp. You don't see them around too much, but it's got a reverb on it, foot switching, and it was really unique in the sense here. Let me point out, it was one of the first amps that I ever saw or knew about that actually had a MIDI programmable foot switch. Now, I didn't get the MIDI programmable foot switch, and they're rare to find them. They were a cost upgrade on the purchase, and most manufacturers didn't carry them. The store I got it at didn't have one. So it's got, the other thing I really like about it, the 2 channels, and then it's unique in this sense here is that it's got this pull boost there for the overdrive.
Okay.
And then also over here on this channel 2, so that's channel 1, you can get a clean boost overdrive, or you got channel 2 here is the overdrive channel. When you switch, that's the overdrive channel, and again you've got a boost here, and then what they call crunch feature.
Nice.
That gives an overdrive gain. And I switch in between the amps channels and then through my pedal board with both the clean and the dirty.
All right, let's take a look at your pedal board here.
And then real quick, while we're still over here, so I'm running my effects loop. I'm running the guitar into my pedal board. It comes out of one of the chains of the pedal board back into the effects loop. And we can show you over here what that does.
Just to run it off the second screen, is that how you run it?
So my guitar signal comes in here into the wah-wah, which when I did the research that I did about setting up the pedal board, I've always used the wah-wah in front of everything. So that's what I did here. The wah-wah starts the chain, comes into my full-tone GT500. I used for years a rat pedal that was my favorite distortion pedal. I found that the full tone here offers me flexibility because it's got 2 channels, an overdrive boost, and then a distortion, which is a lot like the rat pedal used to be. And then the really cool feature about this pedal is that you can switch either the distortion going into the overdrive or the overdrive going into the distortion. So when you put one on it, it's essentially 3 pedals in one.
Wow, nice.
You got a clean boost you can do, and a heavy gain, or you can do heavy gain boost and run all 3. So you got 1 selection, 2 selections, or 3 selections. And when you do either the distortion into the boost or the boost into the distortion, it'll give you a different kind of breakup. Mostly what I use it for is I've got, mostly this is a clean boost with just a little bit of grit on it. And then I'll kick that on if I really want to get a crazy lead tone. I punch that on and it gives me an over-the-top, really compressed, saturated sound.
Really nice.
Okay, and from the GT500, I go into the Tube Screamer. The Tube Screamer was modified. I did upgrade the chip on it. It had, it's from the early 90s, and they were doing, I believe it was the 4996 chip. I upgraded it to the, I believe it was a 7449 chip. I can't remember. But it definitely did make a nice change in the amount of smoothness in the top end that I really agree with the upgrade on the distortion chip. So, and this here is an original Ibanez 89, and so that's a analog delay pedal. So the reason why I went with some of the pedals at the time I was building it, there was the new GT100 Boss that had come out. I thought about just going with an all-in-one unit, but a buddy of mine bought one and it was a little glitchy for him. So I figured, well, I've got the pedals. I'm just going to do another pedal board here and, you know, hope for the future to bring more reliability out of some of these multi-effects units.
Wow.
So I did want to have, I had some vintage pedals and I wanted to use them. So the 89 came along and I had the 2 pedals there. I also used to have the envelope filter, which was the AF9. I still have it, but it wasn't as usable as a pedal, so I switched it out with the Proton. So we'll go on to the Proton next there, the 3-leaf audio. That is a Mutron effect. And I'm a big fan of Jerry Garcia, and I wanted to have a Mutron type sound on my pedal board, and that was what I came up with. The Mutron, I've got a Mutron, but this one here has a really nice envelope to it that the AF9 didn't. And so that's what I decided to go there with, was the Proton. So what happens now is my signal chain comes in from the wah-wah here, goes through all my gain stages,
Okay.
and then back out of the side of the pedal board over here and back into the amp, and that is
In the front of the effects loop?
into the front of the effects loop, yes.
Okay.
Yep, so what that does is allows me to go in, I'm sorry, I take that back, that goes into the front of the amp.
Oh, okay.
So this beginning, all the gain goes into the front of the amp,
Okay.
and then this upper section here, if you look here,
This is what goes through the effects loop.
this is all the time-based stuff that goes through the effects
I
loop.
gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
So it gets sent out of my amp into there's an input over here that I built on the side,
Okay.
and the pedal then goes through first the tuner, then into a chorus pedal, into a super phaser, into a pitch shifter delay, and then lastly a DD7.
Yeah, because there's always those questions about what you run through an effects loop or what you run into the front of the amp.
My
So
research
it looks like you got it all figured out.
I did some research, and a buddy of mine told me you want all the time-based stuff to go through the effects loop. And you know, you can do it any way you really want it, but I figured, well, I'll adhere to some of the hard, fast rules that I read about. The other thing, I had all these pedals, a majority of them. I did have to buy a new wah-wah. I did have to buy the Proton and the DD7. And but what I ended up doing here, the reason a lot of people would say, well, why Boss? I had the pedals. I'm an older guy, as far as I was concerned.
Boss pedals are super reliable.
Super reliable, and
there's a lot of pros, then this is what they play.
yeah. And you know, with the time-based stuff, it's really personal preference. There's a lot of great pedals out there being manufactured, but like I said, I had the pedals, I wanted to use them, so I built this pedal board. And when it was all said and done, it ended up probably costing me $700 or $800 with the new pedals and the setup for the pedal board, which is a Pedal Train PT2.
Pedal Train, right?
Yeah. And then I got a Voodoo Labs power supply, and then when I did the work on it's kind of a hassle to lift it up there and show you.
That's all right.
But that's essentially it. That's my gigging gear. I've been using this setup here for about 5 years now. It's been very reliable. I've had very little problems with it. And
so this thing over here is for your acoustic.
and that's the LR Bags Venue DI. I like the Venue DI here. It has a mute switch, also a boost switch, which allows me to take solos. And then it's got a whole bunch of sculpting capabilities here with the preamp, which I don't use all that much. I've set it up and I just kind of set it and forget it. Most of the times the sound man will do any amount of mixing and monitoring and tweaking of EQ.
Right.
So
Awesome job. Bernie, thank you so much
you're
for
welcome.
showing us your stuff, and man, have a great gig.
all right, great, thanks, and I appreciate you coming out.
All right, no problem. Bye-bye, guys.